My name's Ian Bathgate, and we've got my card on the desk, Director for the Centre for Innovation Management and Enterprise and Business Development within the Royal Oak School of Business and Law. Now, I want to approach this from a slightly different perspective. I want to tell you what we do as an institution. Now, you're sitting in this part of the university, over here. This is the central square. As I said to some of you earlier on, this was the first new campus built in London for 70 years. There was a consortium of 6 institutions, and one by one, everyone fell by the wayside and left UEL holding the baby, as it were. And thank goodness for that, because we ended up with a very, very nice campus opposite London City Airport. Now, the important thing that I think you should remember about this institution is where we are. Now, if you imagine the River Thames and the big U in the Thames, we're to the east of that, near the O2 and near Excel. Why is that important? Well, what you're seeing is the City of London moving down the Thames. The rents in central London are extortionate. The rents in Canary Wharf are a lot more reasonable. And Canary Wharf, which is, if you look at the docks when you leave, it's just up the river, literally a stone's throw away. Canary Wharf will be the size of Manchester within the next 10 years. So we're having a new city within a city being developed, all from a regeneration area, because as you probably are aware, the East End of London and this area in particular, the docks were very heavily bombed during the war. So there's been a lot of regeneration here. This was a traditionally white working class area. The west of London is where all the rich people lived, and the east is where the immigrants used to come in. So we had Chinatown in Limehouse, Aldgate, which is in East London, was there was a very big Jewish community there. It's now gone. We've now got, in the boroughs surrounding this university, there are 6. We've got about 121 different nationalities. So it's a very, very, very diverse area. So this will give you some sort of picture of what type of student we have. So we are based in one of the most dynamic cities in the world. London is London. But the nature of this area is changing dramatically. Now, when I was talking about the knowledge economy, well, I know America has Silicon Valley. We have Silicon Roundabout in the east end of London, but Shoreditch and East London in general is becoming a hub for the creative industries and the generation of knowledge. And we've found the city, as I said, moving down the Thames. We've seen industry moving up the Thames. There's a huge new dock being built, or has been built, a port in Tilbury. And UEL is the meat in the sandwich. As trade moves up and business moves down, we're right in the middle. So we're close to Canary Wharf, and the area is very, very diverse. But we're a city of paradoxes, because whilst you have the great wealth in Canary Wharf, and you can smell the money in Canary Wharf and the power, you have the 6 poorest boroughs in London surrounding it. And we'll take students to Canary Wharf, we'll take them to assessment centres, and they'll see a lot of middle-aged businessmen standing there around like me, and they'll say, no, this is not for me. I want to run my own business. So there's a great spirit of entrepreneurship around the East End of London, and certainly within this institution. So what you actually have is East London becoming the centre of London, and of course our location gives you direct access to that. So again, on the flip side, whilst we've got innovation, it does mean that we have some of the UK's major societal challenges within the area. Health, well-being, social, economic and cultural deprivation, non-attainment in education. Now this should really be a prime consideration for all of us if we're looking at following on from what Alan had to say. Addictive behaviours, I think that speaks for itself, and an ageing population. So, what does that mean? Well, that's where we started. It's 1892. That's still, that's University House, and that's still standing. And if you look, that's the building now. And we have a School of Health and Social Sciences and School of Education around the back of that particular building. Here we have University Square in Stratford. That's where I work. That's where Mark works as well. It's in the Arts Quarter of Stratford, because you know Stratford being the Olympic site and UEL is the Olympic University. So there's a lot of investment that's gone into the area. And this is where you are now. Student quarters, doctorate, and that's the library. So a very, very young and vibrant institution. So we have the three main campuses. University Square, which I've talked about, was a £33 million investment. Been open a couple of years now. We share it with Birkbeck University, but they're gradually moving out, and we seem to be taking over the building, which is a big positive. On this campus, we're the home of a £21 million sports centre, because what we've seen is one way to engage with the local population is through sport. Sport is universal. And I'll talk about a couple of projects that we've got, European projects around that, in a few minutes' time. It was the home of the American Olympics team. They shut the university down for 2 weeks, 3 weeks actually, kicked us all off campus and let the Americans come in. And the support staff lived here and ran the whole system. And they were very good, because they said to us, do you mind if we bring in our own equipment? And we said, no, by all means. And then when they left, they said, oh, by the way, would you like to keep the equipment? And they said, oh, yes, please. And so we had a fully equipped sports centre, courtesy of the American team. And we have Knowledge Dock. Knowledge Dock is the big, colourful building you may have seen as you come in. That's our outward-facing facility. That's where we have engagement with the local population. And the only reason we could build this campus is because of Knowledge Dock. So our whole rationale is around engagement and civic engagement. But this is the question. How do we prepare our students? How do we prepare the next generation of leaders? What we know is traditional education is broken. It doesn't work. The environment is changing dramatically. And the search for talent, as the economist said, is getting rather hard to find. Now we can see that with a lot of larger organisations. I'll use my daughter as an example. She went to Warwick, and she's now working for one of the major city law firms. They said to her, we would normally only employ from Oxbridge, but we broadened the net to include Warwick and Durham and so on, and still top-ranking universities, but they broadened the net because they found that traditional universities, Oxbridge for example, were producing the same sort of graduates. They were the same. Local organisations in Canary Wharf, because of their diversity strategies and CSI strategies, they are broadening the net. They're willing to look at other institutions. And we find ourselves in quite a nice position to be suddenly included in the sweep of these broader searches. Because, you know, where do you find talent? I'm hesitant to use diamond in the rough, but grad students are very, very, very intelligent and innovative, and they have got jobs with major consultancies and major banks in Canary Wharf and so on. But they run their own businesses as well. So, Gallup has done a survey, and what that survey confirms is, and it doesn't take the brain of Britain to work this out, but people who have jobs rate their overall lives more highly than those who are unemployed. Now that was a major surprise to me, to read that finding. And of course, when it comes to being engaged in work and experiencing high well-being after graduation, Gallup Purdue University, and this is the interesting bit, shows the type of institution they attended matters less than what they experienced there. So this should be our focus if we're developing HE around the world. Actually, it's the student experience that counts more than the actual institution itself. And again, these results demonstrate that. So, for support, I had at least one professor who made me excited about learning. 63%. This is the worrying stat. I worked around my head. I had an internship or a job that allowed me to apply what I was learning in the classroom. 29%. I was extremely active in extracurricular activities and organisations while attending. 20%. So when we're looking at HE, when we're looking at HE provision, we should be looking at the holistic view. Start looking at the experience of students over and above that piece of paper that says, I have a degree. Because that degree is worthless if they end up being unable to find a job. So, what's our philosophy? The university should be a life-changing experience. And we're doing that through civic engagement. So let me quickly tell you about the student body. 6 local boroughs housed in the country. The majority of the youngsters that live in this area, 121 different nationalities, most of them are very well represented on campus. First generation university. Parents didn't go. English is not always the first language spoken in the household. So there could be a language issue. But the net result of that is, of those two facts, is the fact that they cannot or do not have access to networks. If they have got access to networks, then that's a big, big problem. They're on the back foot immediately when you're looking at Russell Group universities and other red-brick institutions as well. So by flipping that around and saying, right, how can you start getting networks? We can do it through civic engagement, through engaging and giving back to the community, to the area in which you come from. And we do that through the opportunities we offer, through teaching and learning, and also through research. And I'll come back to that in a couple of minutes' time. So, 20,000 students, 120 countries, 150 undergraduate programs. That's us. So what we're doing is we're developing a curriculum that we call one that is engaged. Engaged with what? Engaged with focusing on the entrepreneurial and creative talent that our students possess innately. Some of them don't realise they have this, but our job is to foster that with them. So it's back to that experience that they get at the institution, being given the opportunities to develop that. So, what we need to do is not only equip them with the skills that they need, but also we need to help them transition from college, from university, to gainful, graduate level employment. And this is a big, big issue in the UK at the moment. So, we try and make a difference locally as well as globally. It maps onto the transformation of East London. I was born in East London quite a few years ago now, and I can tell you this place has changed dramatically. My grandparents wouldn't recognise this area if they were still alive. So we're looking to re-engage with the local communities. And a good example for the School of Business and Law is we run a pro bono law clinic on a monthly basis, which allows for that giving back, that interaction. And we also do this through my centre, the Centre for Innovation, Management and Enterprise, in terms of offering training courses, short courses. We run entrepreneurial classes in junior schools. And believe me, they're good, these kids. They're really quite good. So we develop a pipeline into the institution. So some examples. We've got community volunteering for Stratford Village, running the Herb Garden at one extreme. And I'm proud to say that a lot of these students, well in fact 90% were from the School of Business and Law, were engaged in what we call the Money Mentors program, teaching monetary literacy amongst the general youth population. We did a financial literacy day for Year 12 sixth formers in 4 local East End schools. Newer, well, public health, we're engaged with that. We do have a research project called the League of Fitness, which is a computer-based and online-based program. This was developed by students, for students, and the NHS are about to take that up through CME. We run overseas experiences, global scholars. This was a team that went to Ethiopia, Angola, and they set up a clinic in Ethiopia. So again, it's not just giving back in the local community, it's in the global community as well. We've had students go all over the world with this. Sports, this is our cricket team in India. So sport is a great mechanism for taking experience abroad. In terms of research, we are engaged with our research. With the top modern university for research, a number of world-class research centres. For the REF in 2014, law received 99% and business 88% of international quality. So we can do the research and also engagement at a local level. And we have a number of research centres, this being my centre here, Centre for Innovation Management. Okay. What we've seen as a result of our investment is an improvement in the proportion of graduates in employment from 79 to 86%. And in SS schools, and as a national student survey, we went up 8 places in that rankings last year. So we focus very much on employability and trying to develop the skills that students need to get into graduate level jobs. And we do this through applied research, not pure out and out academic theoretical research. It's the application where we're very much interested in. Some of the companies that we're in touch with, a big presence, BT Sport is a big presence in this area, and we have the FSA moving in to Stratford very, very shortly. Supporting students is very important. We have students mentoring, past students mentoring current students, which works incredibly well, as well as a professional tutoring, personal tutoring system. And we also harness technology. Students think we're giving them a free gift, but we're not. Because what this does, giving them a tablet, it means all of their core textbooks are loaded on this. So they don't have to buy. So it's fully loaded. They have direct access to the library, and all the academic journals and online material is available there. Our Moodle site allows them to look at their courses, and of course there's Outlook and so on, which gives them all of the communication devices. But most importantly of all, this allows us to track our students. Not in a big brother way, but we know when they attend classes, because there's see that red light shining over there? Students are meant to tap in. So with their student card, that records a visit. We know when they visit the library, we know when they open their textbooks, we know how much of the text they've read, we know how they're progressing with their work. All this is monitored.
No escape.
No escape, no. I won't tell you what they did at the start. But what this means is that we can identify struggling students earlier. It doesn't have to be at the end of the semester or the end of the term when they're doing their exams. So this works very well, but we don't tell students that we actually do that. They're very surprised when we say, but you've only been to the library twice this year. How do you do that? Okay, research. How do we tie our research into civic engagement? We do this through my research centre, CME. CME is the hub between external and internal stakeholders. We we run a lot of EU projects through SEME. And I realise time is ticking, so I'm just going to quickly rush through this. We have 4 key strategic themes within SEME around sustainability, sustainable places, smart cities, and so on. Society, industry, and education. Innovation is at the hub of this, and we invite students into SEME. They get a SEME associate tag, and they can help us work on projects and do research work, develop their own businesses, and so on. So it's an incubation centre as well, and we work in conjunction with our Knowledge Dock. So some of the projects that we're currently running. Erasmus Plus, I'm a sports entrepreneur, what are you? Here we're using sport as a vehicle to develop entrepreneurial skills. And we're not doing it directly to youth, we're doing it through trainers. We're training the trainers because obviously there's better dissemination. So there'll be disciplines where we run them through entrepreneurial skill sets and activities which the trainers will then pass on to their relevant societies. And we're having a final event in Barcelona FC Stadium, I think tail end of this year. So I'll report back, see whether we won. Settle. This is where we're developing social entrepreneurship training via ICT. That's developing a platform for people to interact with social entrepreneurship. That's another Erasmus program that's running currently. IBM Plus, this is in its last year now. What we're doing here, another Erasmus Plus project, but we're looking at developing agile new business models for the energy sector, for ESCOs. Because the research we've done on this shows that ESCOs really are trained technically, but they don't really know the broader business model environment. So that's quite a successful project. And one we've put to bed is what we call Zen. This is looking at sustainability of historic centres. Based on Perugia, in Italy, they run a jazz concert, a jazz festival every year. It's a medieval town that sits on a hill. 40,000 people come along to enjoy the jazz and leave one hell of a mess when they leave. And the aim of this project is to develop a blueprint for the EU for anybody who's running an event, whether it's a small festival all the way up to the Olympics. And we were heavily involved in developing the Olympics. MEKEI Global, really this was a 1.5 million project aimed at female entrepreneurships, female owners of SMEs. What sort of business are they in? How can we help them internationalise their offering? And what was useful about this is we have students as consultants on this. So again, we try and involve our students wherever we can. So that's a brief overview, a brief snapshot of what we do of many things. I'll be happy to talk to you about anything a little later on. Okay, thank you.
Please remember, if we all help and do a little bit, it will make a big difference.